Hello, everyone. This is your host, Akeel Jabbar. Welcome back to another episode of SaaS District. In today's episode, we'll be talking about how to automate your lead generation using LinkedIn, as well as how a company bootstrapped Expandi.io to 6 million ARR in 18 months. Today, we have our guest, Stefan Smulders, joining us. Stefan is a SaaS entrepreneur, Forbes Business Consul, and a father of a 5-year-old son. He's the co-founder of Expandi.io, a cold outreach automation tool that helps B2B marketers and agencies to automate their lead generation efforts on LinkedIn. It's completely bootstrap SaaS, where his team grew it from 0 to 6 million ARR in 18 months, which we'll talk about today. So welcome, Stefan. Super excited to have you on the SaaS District show today.
Yeah, thanks for the warm introduction. And I'm happy to be a guest of your show as a fan myself. So I'm really excited and looking forward to have a nice conversation with you, Akeel.
Thank you. I love it. Love having people who listen to the show also be a guest. We've had quite a few, so that's great. Stefan, I want to dive into some of the changes. Recent changes happened with LinkedIn's policies, their algorithms. It's been a big change for a lot of people and agencies who I've spoken with, and entire campaigns and marketing strategies where they reduced the amount of connection requests. Right? I think you previously were able to send out 100 per day, and now they've dropped that to 100 per week. So just from a numbers perspective, that makes a big difference. Have you seen any other changes in the market, whether from Google algorithms, LinkedIn, all these other companies, doubling down, making things harder to automate some of these higher volume outreach? And how has that affected the results of maybe some of the sales teams you guys are working with?
Yeah, let's be honest. You start straight away with one of the most interesting and hot questions at the moment.
Yep.
Yeah, indeed, we all face some challenges on LinkedIn since somewhere around mid-March from this year. Let's be honest, the platform is growing really, really fast with almost 750, even 800 million active users on the platform, right? Mm-hmm. And LinkedIn's number one problem, that's actually the spam. Instead of fighting with all these third-party apps, which are tons of them out there on the market, will make less sense for LinkedIn because we always will pop up with another version, or we prepare ourselves to align with all the changes. So what they are actually doing to reduce the spam and before people are leaving the platform is that they go and double down on bringing in some extra restrictions. And for most of the people who are using LinkedIn for a long time, it was making easy money. Right? It was, you build your playbook, you run a simple sales navigator search, you drop an X amount of people in the campaign. And if your client was actually complaining, then the only easy thing to do was just adding more people on top of the funnel. And then there was always be an outcome. And since mid-March, it's a bit of a different. People stuck and everybody was a bit in panic. LinkedIn is cracking down. My agency needs to be closed. I cannot move forward anymore. But I think on the long run, it's maybe the best decision LinkedIn could make. Because all the weekends, they will leave the platform. They will go to email. They will try again there to do a mass outreach. But actually, we all have to stop with the spray and pray approaches. I think all the inboxes are filled over with tons and tons of messages and requests from people, which make at the end less sense because of, for example, a bad targeting. So LinkedIn is not cracking down. It's actually a good thing, in my opinion. The only thing is that we have to do a step back and we have to try and adopt new ways to be successful on LinkedIn. And it's indeed the case that along all the users on the platform, they reduce the amount of requests from 700 a week to 100. And actually that means that we have to do a better job on the targets. If we only have 100 requests left per week, then we have to make sure that we target the right people with the right messaging and with the right strategies. So everybody who's open to adopt new ways to be successful on LinkedIn, these people will definitely survive. It's only not the case anymore that we can keep on going with mass outreach and with spray and pray approaches. And it's very hard for a lot of people to change people's behavior because if you are used to do outreach for many, many years, and it was making a very easy money for all the agencies out there, you have to do a better learning and find new strategies and tactics. And that will take a bit of a time. So actually, for the time being, tools like Expandi, they have, of course, tons and tons of workarounds to bypass limits with, for example, a CSV upload, but also with free open in-mails to every LinkedIn profile with an open status, group messaging, event messaging, and such kind of things. But at the end, LinkedIn will also reduce, most likely, these kind of approaches. And then we have to make sure that in the meantime, we adopt ways to engage on a different level with people on LinkedIn.
So that makes sense. I mean, from LinkedIn's perspective, their goal is really to harness and double down on building a community and a way to network, right? I mean, people hate going to networking events where everybody's trying to spam you and sell you, right? We want to build connections, real connections. And I guess that makes sense when you're adding, trying to add that filter to filter for more quality and less quantity. In terms of moving forward. So, I mean, what I've seen recently is instead of people reaching out to me now, with a request, they're using things like in-mail. So I'm getting a lot of these in-mails of people trying to, get past that restriction. Any other, changes that you'll maybe see kind of moving forward, of how people will start adopting and maybe trying different ways of, building a better sequence and system to get better results and also staying, genuine?
100%. I think, as you mentioned, open emails to open profiles is a very interesting way to bypass and actually straight away pitch your approach. Group messaging. LinkedIn also has an opportunity that if you are part of the same group as your audience, then they allow you to send a message one-on-one without making connection request. So that could be an interesting and helpful approach to bypass the limits in the meantime. And if we analyze this situation a bit furthermore, then I think everybody is familiar with the SSI score, the Social Selling Index, and that actually contains 4 pillars. Did you ever heard about the Social Selling Index, or did you verify it yourself?
No, I haven't. So please do tell more. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, it's actually a score LinkedIn provides you based on your behavior. It contains 4 different pillars. And if I analyze a lot of profiles, then you can, LinkedIn will give you a score between 0 and 100 based on these 4 components. And the people who have a bit of a high score, they are most likely always focused on doing outreach. And then the 4th pillar, building relationships, has a very high score. But the other 3 pillars, which are as well important, for example, build a brand out of your LinkedIn profile, engage on a much more natural way with your audience, but also create and host events on LinkedIn. And I think going double down on hosting your event on LinkedIn is actually a great opportunity to use that as a way to do outreach, because LinkedIn wants you to only invite people you know. And it is actually quite easy on LinkedIn to host your event, and they have all the features in place so that you can do it within a couple of minutes. And if you can build a lot of attendees out of your event, then that's actually the right people to follow up the month afterwards. So we tested that approach multiple times, and with some really cool strategies we have in place, which we of course will share with the audience as well afterwards. You can easily reach more than 1,000 attendees for your LinkedIn event. And that are actually interesting people to follow up afterwards, to engage with, to connect with, to use them to build out your email funnel. And if you already used with your SaaS, for example, to do a one-on-one demos, that's at the same time a great opportunity to pitch your approach for more than 1 people. Because a live event of a demo or kind of webinar is actually a one-on-one demo, but then you can approach it to much more people at the same time, build your brand, build an authority out of what you're doing. And we are going double down ourselves on hosting events on LinkedIn on a consistent and more frequently basis.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I started seeing that as well. Interesting you say that. I'm starting to get a lot more invites to events as well. And actually that makes perfect sense. So that's awesome. I didn't even think about that. We've never actually ran one, but I can see, the value of doing that now instead. So we're definitely going to look into that. And I know you did send over, for anybody listening in, Stefan was generous enough to share a template or ebook that's called Prepare Market Launch LinkedIn Events, which helps you get 1,000+ attendees to your LinkedIn event. So we're going to add that to the show notes. If you guys want to check that out, I think there's super helpful content there. If you guys want to click on that. So moving on to the next phase, Stefan. So if I'm a B2B SaaS company, right? Maybe this is my first time. I want to set up an outbound engine or sequence or whatever. Use LinkedIn to reach out and build connections and obviously sales at some point and build my funnel. Where do I get started if it's my first time? And maybe added to that is what questions should I be asking myself to see even if this is the right channel with me? Because I know there's some things you want to look at, like LTV of my user, and if there's not a certain threshold, and doing that channels might not even be good for me. How do I start?
Yeah, I think besides the general things as optimizing your profile, it always starts with finding the right audience to approach and to connect and to engage with. And what I see that a lot of people still do is running a simple sales navigator search with 2 filters as a job title and a location. And then they were used to just drop in as much people as they can. It's a bit of a worse targeting at the moment, especially with all the limitations and with the restrictions. So to do a much more better job in the targeting, you can, for example, go to your LinkedIn timeline, and on top of that, you see the search bar. There you can fill in a hashtag, and then you can fill in any keyword you want. For example, the one which matches a topic your audience is using. And then you can select afterwards a couple of extra filters, for example, posts or events. And then LinkedIn will pop up the events or the posts which are based on that specific keyword you filled in. And they will show the most active events or the most active posts from people who are talking about a topic similar as that specific keyword you entered. And it means that if you find, for example, a post with a lot of engagement, so actually tons of people were liking and commenting on that post, you can, within 3 clicks, scrape all the people who like and comment that post into Expandi. And that could be a really cool starting point to use these people to engage with. And then you can make a much more warmer introduction. So instead of doing actually a very cold outreach, hey, first name, I see you're working as a job title and company name, you can now make a kind of a warmer introduction with, hey, I see you're also a fan of Stefan's post about this specific growth hacking topic. I like it as well. I want to learn much more. Let's learn from each other, something similar. Or I see you are planning to attend the growth hacking event from Stefan next month. What's your favorite speaker? What do you expect to learn? Should we share some ideas? And then you will see that you engage with people in a much more friendly way, and that people are also open to give a feedback, to engage with your questions. And that's a much more better starting point to follow up from there. So I think from all the strategies and the hacks, and you can find tons and tons on our Expandi blog. I think scraping people's posts, and it doesn't matter which post, it's always important that it matches the business topic, or scraping events. With both of them, I never ever achieved a lower acceptance rate than, for example, a 60%, and with posts sometimes up to 80% acceptance rate. And if you build out a sequence, everybody is used to pitch straight away after connecting, right? If you receive a connection request and you accept it yourself, you can just count the minutes and the hours before somebody is attacking you with an approach that they want to sell you something. And I think that's a bit outdated and it's not working perfectly fine anymore as it was before. So embedding personalized GIF animations in your follow-up sequence will definitely double reply rates. I think it's fair enough to say that after accepting, if you can achieve an reply rate of 25%, it's already a great job. But I never ever achieved a lower reply rate using GIF animations than 55% on average, because you can interrupt the patterns, you can minimize the ask, and instead of approaching people straight away, you can just send a GIF animation from yourself with a coffee, or just say thank you for the connection, or maybe a whiteboard where you can drop in a dynamic content based on their behavior. And people really liked it. It's different. You stand out of the crowd, and it will definitely help to get a much more better results than the approaches we were all used to use in the early days.
So I just want to recap this because a lot of value bombs here. So kind of takeaways I got is instead of scraping general filters, which are job title, location, now we're doing let's find who are engaging with posts that are related to some of the keywords you want to target. And secondly is events, which are, events about, which you're targeting. Now you have that list. And now you have, more personalization. You have something to relate to, which is, that event that you guys attended, or, the post you guys both engage with, or the person you follow. And then from there, you're saying you should expect, somewhere between 55 to 60% connection rate. And from there, are you saying 25% response rate from that? Or let's say from 100, you should get, 25 people positive response, just to clarify on that.
After the people which accept, I think half of them should reply on a sequence where you use GIF animations in one of the follow-up messages.
Wow. Okay. And what does a good sequence look like? Maybe if you can break down kind of a strategy. Okay, connection request. We talk about this event. They accept it. Next GIF. Or do you have is it an email? Is it a call? Is it a text message? Have you seen something that works really well?
Yeah, it depends, of course, on which type of approach and for which purpose you want to use LinkedIn to do outreach. Is it maybe for booking a demo call for your SaaS? Do you want to grow your community and move people to there? Do you want to become a LinkedIn influencer or just book sales meetings? But let's say we're focusing on SaaS here how you can book a demo call for your SaaS, right? So let's say indeed the starting point is we're going to scrape an event from people who are attending an online LinkedIn event. And I think adding some fun in the connection request, that will definitely work. So for example, you can make a joke like knock knock. Now you're supposed to say who's there. Just kidding, with a personalization placeholder as a first name. I saw you're also a fan of this specific post or event about that topic. I love it too. Let's connect. And from there on, instead of approaching people straight away after the connection, you can send a GIF animation from yourself with maybe a bottle of champagne. Welcome to the party. And maybe 2 days later or 1 hour later, you can say, okay, it's getting pretty boring in the inbox, especially with all these massive sales pitches you get. And show them a whiteboard from yourself where you add a text like, for example, hey, Stefan, I want to learn you some amazing tricks, how you can hack LinkedIn and use such kind of GIF animations. Are you in for a virtual coffee? And then we put the receiver's profile image on the GIF animation. And in an additional follow-up, let me teach you how to be, how been hitting a hole-in-one with my hyper-personalization at scale through LinkedIn. Are you free for a call or for a chat next Tuesday? Something similar like that. I think such a similar approach is also shared in the ebook, which can people find afterwards in the notes. And it's just one of them. It's filled with definitely 10 interesting sequences, and this is one of them.
Yeah. Okay, this is fantastic. So, Stefan was also generous enough to share another ebook, which is the top 10 proven LinkedIn outreach templates. So we'll add that to the show notes, and you guys can see, all these beautiful campaigns. I can see that, 5 steps, 77% acceptance rates, 80% reply rate, 25% sales leads generated 1 week. So awesome results from some of these campaigns. So well done. We'll add that. I think there's a lot of insights there that we can even learn from. So thank you. Stefan, I want to shift gears and talk about, your journey, right? And how you grew your company, right? You hit over 6 million ARR, less than 18 months, and fully bootstrapped. Can you share with us, what worked best for you guys when you built your product? What were in the initial stages? How did you guys get your first few clients? And then from there, what's been your best marketing growth channels to scale that quickly after that?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, a small introduction here. I was an agency owner myself, and with 2 left hands and 1 Excel sheet, it was very challenging for me to scale my agency. And therefore, I thought, let's search for some tools which can automate some repetitive tasks on LinkedIn. Beside the fact that I found tons and tons of tools, most of them were Chrome extended. I was using profiles of C-level decision makers. They were always scared to lose their profiles due to LinkedIn. And it was a hard thing to scale accounts using Chrome extensions, because as soon as my wife is calling me, Stefan, it's time for dinner, all these Chrome extensions will stop. And it's a very tricky thing because LinkedIn can catch them very easily. And with some of these points in mind, I could not scale my agency. And actually from frustration, I shared this with my technical co-founder, Glenn. And he said, let's just build our own tool. Let's focus actually on the main thing, the main pain point people have. That's a buzz around bans and restrictions, especially a couple of years ago. So we built Expandi cloud-based with a very intelligent architecture and a lot of safety measures so that it is almost at least very difficult for LinkedIn to shut such kind of things down. And we built in all the features I need for agency perspective to manage a multiple account. So that was actually the born of Expandi. And Glenn promised me at that time point, Stefan, within 3 months you have it better, you can test it, and you can play around with it yourself. And we all know from developers that such things will take a bit longer. So at the end, after 6 months, he provided me with a tool which I could use to pivot with to find out. And from that point on, I thought, let's just search for people who are using, for example, IP tracking softwares like Albacross, Lead Forensics, because I know from the past that it's nice to see who's visiting your website, but all these people are struggling with what's actually the best way to follow up people who are on your website. So I thought, okay, that could be a great opportunity for them to approach them straight on LinkedIn. And in that beta period, I used a tool like BuildWith. I created in the Netherlands a lot of websites which were using such kind of an IP tracking software. But at that time point, it was very easy to make appointments with these marketing managers. But in these calls, I found out that it was a hard thing. I first... they were not in love for LinkedIn. They were open to use it, but they were not that used. After I solved that, I need to sell automation. So it took a very long time in such a sales call to let them believe that LinkedIn was a great opportunity. And after 1 week, they came back, Stefan, it really liked the approach. But what I actually have to send, what's converting, they are only telling about themselves. I booked more than 300 appointments, and we use these people to give us a feedback on the tool. And the outcome of that was that it was nice for them, but they were struggling with what to send. And the main reason for that was that they were not used how to approach people on LinkedIn. They never used actually automation. So I thought, if I want to scale this, I don't need to focus on this audience, because it's a very hard thing to do such amount of demo calls, taking 1 hour per call. So I did a step back from that point on, and I thought I actually have to find new Stefans, people who are already in love with LinkedIn, people who are using automations. I've tested out all the tools out there myself, so I know all the pros and the cons in comparing to what we've built. So I believed at a time point that we really could bring some additional value to the table, not only in terms of features, but also in terms of reliability. We are operating on a platform where LinkedIn is not that amused with all these third-party apps. And if you are managing one profile, it really doesn't care for you who is behind that software. It charges you $99 and it only has to work. But if you're an agency owner and you're using tons and tons of profiles, it becomes more and more important for yourself to know who's behind that software. Because it's a bit of a gray space, then you want to know with who you're doing business. So I used these kind of learnings, and we prepared in global launch. And I thought, okay, if Bill Gates really want to catch me, he will definitely find me. So it made no sense for me at all to hide myself. And I wanted to build a community, a lot of trust in a gray space. So I thought, let's use myself as a brand of Expandi, where we show ourselves, where we create a lot of valuable content, because that was one missing piece in this space. Everybody is talking, especially the providers, about what they can do. We have this feature, we have that feature, we have everything, but nobody is educating you on how to use these kind of tools to be successful on LinkedIn, with templates, with strategies, with hacks. So that's what we did. We only focused on agencies, on growth marketers. So actually people who are already in love with LinkedIn, who are using automation, but with a very interesting content distribution. We used in the beginning our own tool to build out really interesting hacks, where we scraped communities and social channels from our competitors, convert them to LinkedIn profiles, upload them in Expandi, and build out sequences where we ask them for feedback. And all the great results we got from them, we wrote kind of an in-depth and step-by-step guide, kind of a blog articles where we connect the dots, where we explained how we did it, which templates we use. We put in real results with real LinkedIn messages we showed there and replies from people. And we start distributing that content. And especially in the beginning, because we did not even have a penny to do a paid advertisement or traditional marketing. So we need to be very creative. And we use my LinkedIn profile these days to distribute content. So for example, I did a post on my LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn outreach is dead. Nobody's replying to messages. But if you want to achieve a 70% acceptance rate and book 40 appointments a week on average, just leave a comment and I will drop you over a guide. And then we made a GIF animation of the guide that people really saw that it was a real thing. And then we scraped with Expandi all the photos with the comments. And we approached these people to send over the decks. We put some small retargeting on that. And people were immediately in love with these kind of approaches. We distributed that on places where we thought our audiences were at that time point. Let's say indie hackers, growth hackers. We did a lot on test on core. And it was a lot of manual effort. We dropped in some growth hacking Facebook groups the same content. We asked people to give a comment. And then our team was manually following up all these people and sent over the decks and the guides. And we got a lot of traction from these activities in the beginning. So we use LinkedIn in the beginning to promote the posts. We used engagement bots to create tons of awareness tools at that time point, like Lampot, to get a lot of traction on each post in the beginning. And sometimes we achieved 160K, 200K views per post and thousands of people who were commenting. And we were a part of a lot of growth Facebook groups where we did actually the same. And that helped us to get a lot of traction, to find our market fit, to build out a bit of a more awareness. And still until now, it's our main lead generator to create content and build out an inbound strategy. Our blog has, for example, more than 55, 60K unique readers per month. So we generate a lot of inbound traffic based on all the hacks, the tactics, and the strategies we do.
A quick note from our sponsors today, and we'll be right back. This episode is sponsored by Contentify.co, a premium podcast editing and repurposing agency for busy content creators just like you. Are you spending too much time editing your podcast and end up with no time to stay on top of also publishing, sharing, reaching new listeners, while also staying ahead of the latest podcasting trends? Don't worry, Contentify has you covered. You no longer need to worry about spending hours editing and repurposing anymore. Just record your content and they handle the rest. Contentify is an end-to-end podcast editing and repurposing agency to help you grow your podcast by editing and repurposing quickly, easily, and reliably to share all over your social networks. And if you haven't even noticed, I also use them for the SaaS District podcast. So join other busy content creators just like you and me and start saving time and money while you grow your podcast show. Visit Contentify.co to learn more today. And just to kind of clarify on that post, in the initial phases where you're really promoting it on your LinkedIn, you mentioned a tool, Lamppost. What was it? The one to get engagement?
Lampot. Yeah, at that time point we use Lampot. If you want, I can send over the whole growth hack, the exact strategy, the templates we use, how you connect the dots, how you use Lampot, how you do follow-up, because we have a lot of playbooks created for these kind of strategies so that you can execute it yourself the right way.
Yeah, that would be good. And do you remember, did you guys spend a lot of time developing just one really, really good post and then just, a lot of time on the, generating buzz and getting the word out? Or is it, constantly just creating content and then, every week, publishing just to, help people with that?
Yeah, every time. The only thing we did is try to create no fluffy content because there's too much out there in the space. So every time we created a playbook or a blog or whatever, a piece of content, let's call it like that, we never published one article where we did not execute ourselves successfully that strategy. So only if we were able to got the exact results as we described in the playbooks, that was one of the requirements we made for ourselves. Okay, if that's not the case, then we're not going to publish it. If we can't make it ourselves, then it's not good enough. And we always make sure that in the content, we have a very clear structure, the how, the why. We put in how you connect the dots, the templates, the exact templates we use, and also the results with real screens, with real statistics, so that people really saw that we executed it ourselves and we tested it 100% before we start distributing it.
That makes sense. And I'm just looking at some of these on your blog right now, and I can see how detailed some of these articles are. So you only share when it becomes successful, right? You're not sharing any of the failed experience. I'm sure, you have maybe 10 articles and you probably have, hundreds you can write of some failed stuff you guys done as well, right? Is there anything you can share that, hasn't worked well?
It's always the hardest part to find the audience. And especially if you find not the right audience to get some traction, or to not split test with an A/B test your approach. And I think we could do a better job in split testing. Mm-hmm. So, for example, on the same audience, use different kind of approaches to see which one converts better, instead of adding all the people to one campaign. And that's what we did too much in the beginning. And I should definitely recommend to everybody who wants to do active outreach on LinkedIn, always test different approaches on the same audience. So kind of an A/B test and split test. And I think that's one of the main learnings. I should strongly recommend to try to avoid that as much, to just approach the same audience with one sequence.
Nice. Test. I love A/B testing. Yeah, same audience, and just test different messaging, sequences, content, see what works, and then follow the data. Yeah, love it. In terms of just understanding, moving towards kind of the personal and more rapid fire questions, Stefan, your past background, you built a company called, Lead Express. Then you mentioned, how you moved into, generating Expandi as a problem that you were facing, right? Yourself, and you wanted to find more Stefans who were struggling. Going forward, just if you can tell us, what's your plan for expansion, and how do you see kind of next steps?
Yeah, it's definitely the most interesting journey for myself I'm in so far. It's very exciting, especially the hyper growth in the beginning, where we sometimes grow more than 70K MRR per month. But I got also a lot of learnings. I did it together with my two co-founders. We are hardworking guys. We have a lot of skills. And these skills brought us where we are right now. But I also see that there are new challenges coming in. It's a total different story to bring the company from this revenue to multiply it from here 4 times. Right. If I look in the mirror, I need to be honest as well. I know I'm a founder, I'm a growth marketer, I'm not that structured. And everything comes now down to organization, to processes, to a lot of such kind of things, to find better people, to have a great hiring process, to make the current employees and colleagues better. We came from amateur niveau on the football level, and now we are playing, for example, semi-final Champions League, right? So, and I think that it's interesting, but it's also, for me as a founder, a bit of a challenge. And we are for a crossover ourselves as well now, where we say, okay, what we want to do. The market potential is still so fucking huge. Agreed. How can we get advance of that? How can we get the most out of this? And I think it needs to be something in the direction where we do a step back as a founders ourselves and let more great people enter the company to manage the routines, to build systems in place, and to build out the company on an organization level. Because that are skills we don't... There are much more people who can do a better job than we can do ourselves here. And I think if we can work on that, maybe together with people who can help us, that can maybe with other companies who can bring value to us. But that's, I think, in this whole journey, one of the most interesting phases, right? Because we face challenges, and 6 months ago, I did not even know that they should come, or not even that they were exist. Right. And it's kind of a transition where you're in. That's how I feel it a bit. Maybe in transition, I don't want to miss it, but it feels sometimes a bit like a marathon, right? We worked our asses off. We did a lot of things to came here, and now we are here. Okay, how can we become even better and even bigger? And how can we structure all these things? And we have to find that in level up the organization.
No, that's fair, and I think that's a very sound advice of looking internally and understanding where you like to operate, right? Not everybody likes to. I mean, even if you can maybe say you can possibly continue to grow and build those systems and processes, but as sometimes entrepreneurs, we like the phase of building and hitting the first few clients and validating and getting that growth phase, but we don't like the structure of then where it's very more political and right. So that's fair. I mean, nobody's forcing you to keep running it that way. So that's great that you can see that. Do you remember when you first started? So obviously this was like, okay, I want to solve a problem for myself here. I want to save me time, my agency, and be able to grow my company. And then you built the solution, and then find all these other people who are also interested. Did you have a vision at that time of like, okay, now we have a product here, people want it, and this is what we see of where we want to take it? Or has that changed over time to where you are today? Is like, okay, how you look at it.
That was a bit in the beginning, a bit of a high risk investment from our side, because it's not illegal, it's not forbidden by law, but it's a bit of a tricky thing with LinkedIn, especially at that time point when we start building this tool. And that's what I mean with a bit of a higher risk profile, right? And at that time point, we did not have a long-term plan because we thought, okay, if we can be here for 1 year and we can get as much out of it as we can wish ourselves, then we already did a great job. But along the way, I saw that maybe that's not common anymore, that LinkedIn will kick our asses because it's a love-hate relationship. We survived a lot of things, a lot of changes, a lot of attacks from different corners and areas. And it's also not in LinkedIn's interest to bring these tools down, because at the end, 20% of LinkedIn's income is coming from SalesNav subscriptions.
Right.
Nobody not using automation will buy a SalesNav subscription. That's one thing. The other thing is, if they crack these tools down, if they will bring all these providers to court, we extend because we have the money as well. And then after an X amount of time, we say, okay, sorry, LinkedIn, and we pop up tomorrow with Baitpandi because we own the technology. So that will not solve LinkedIn's main problem. So along the way, it gives me a lot more trust that we can build out a business here which will maintain on the long time as well. So now we have a bit of a more and clear vision for how we want to move on with the company, how we can make it more reliable. And we want to spend a lot of energy, time and money and build out our organization, because it seems that we are here to stay. For example, we, due to all the changes on LinkedIn, we work our asses off for the last 4 months to build a more representative tool, which is in line with actually what LinkedIn wants you to do. It's based on the social selling index. You can do, instead of only approaching people, you can engage on a much more natural way with that version. You can promote your events with a lot of great features. You can post content. You can use email, because we have a native email integration in that version as well. So slowly, we are not depending that much anymore on only sending connection requests and boring sequences. You can slowly use Expandi also for your email outreach, also to engage with people, to scrape data, to post data on LinkedIn. And we will help you to become a much more better user. So we're focusing on building out an academy where we educate people to be successful on LinkedIn. And you can tell me whatever you want, but making people better users on LinkedIn, that can definitely never be a bad thing, also not for LinkedIn. Right. At the end, we want the same. We also not want people to spam. We also don't want people in our software who use it as a spray and a pray approaches. We do mass outreach. So at the end, we on the same page as LinkedIn. We want to achieve exactly the same, just automate these boring and repetitive tasks so that people can focus on building out and thinking about strategy. So I think along the way, it's changed from maybe kind of a monthly vision and surviving mode to designing an approach where we accept that automation will be a part of the future of LinkedIn, and how can we adopt and align with actually what LinkedIn you want to be. So I should say that's a 180-degree change in comparing to how we thought when we started this.
Yeah, just about survival, paying the bills, and getting some money out of the solution. Versus now, I love the academy you guys built. It's just not the LinkedIn outreach tool. You have the email, the smart sequences, which I think is genius to build out your whole campaign. So I love it. How much you're investing back into holistic approach of solving the problem now. So that's awesome. And then shifting kind of rapid fire questions. What's one piece of advice you wish you had known and would tell maybe, let's say, your 25-year-old self? You can go back in time and give that advice.
Things never have to be perfect to go to market. I think if you have an idea and you're building out an MVP, and it will definitely make more sense to already start finding people who can use it and build a community around these people, because these people will definitely be your ambassadors. They will become your army if they can give a feedback, if they can help you moving forward, and if they see you are solving and you're doing your best to make things better. And when I was 25, I always thought things have to be perfect. I can't go to market with my ideas, with things, if the website is not 100%, if the tool is not working smooth and seamless. And I saw now that maybe it's also because we were bootstrapped, we did not even have the money to spend, we needed to be creative. But I think that's one of the most interesting learnings from myself, that things not have to be perfect to go to market. You have to find out and get a feedback from your audience and to see if there is a fit. And I should definitely use the knowledge now in these terms if I could change it in the early days.
Speed over perfection. Yeah, I love it. It's very easy. The fear kind of grasp of, you're hiding, you want to be perfect and you don't want to reveal yourself until, everything is as you hope. But yeah, that makes perfect sense. So you mentioned one challenge, about, trying to decide, how to take the business kind of forward. Is there maybe some other biggest challenge you're currently facing that you find that would help you to continue to grow? Meaning, is there anything that keeps you up at night these days?
Along the road, there are a couple of things which give me headaches in the night. And in the beginning, that was a bit of a scary thing for LinkedIn. Afterwards, the changes. But now I think it's more in the organization. To prepare myself mentally together with my great co-founders to do a step back and to adopt new ways to grow the company with new knowledge and great people who are entering. But I also have to be honest that it's a bit of a hard for myself to do that. I found out that I'm not a CEO, not a director. So if I look what makes me happy, that's the growth marketing part, that's engaging with people, that's hosting events, telling my story, building out a brand, but definitely not managing the organization. So what keeps me awake these days is, okay, how can with which kind of a people and with which kind of a help we can make the next step to achieve a great results again with this amazing company.
Nice. Stefan, who or what are maybe some of the best 3 resources? This can be books, it can be people or mentors or people you follow in the space who you can attribute to who helped you become instrumental to your success with these last few years.
I don't read a lot of books myself, to be honest, but I really like to be practical, and therefore I read a lot of tactics and strategies which I can use myself. I think one of the main channels which I use to get a lot of ideas and creativity is growth hackers. There people publish a lot of valuable content, so I think it's maybe not fair enough to just mention someone, but it's full with great people with great ideas. Among the road, I built out a great friendship with for example, Houston Golden from BAMF Media. He has a great background in growth. I learned a lot from another good friend. He's from Ukraine. He was one of the initiators from Lempot. It's Ilya Azovchev. And especially in the beginning, they gave me a lot of ideas and insights. And they were also constantly sharing some valuable content about how you can growth hack the systems and execute some really cool things. So I think both of them were really valuable for me during this amazing journey.
Yeah, I'm familiar with BAMF. I know their journey when they first started, and they've done a great job. And also know Amelia Chagas over, now at Growth Hackers, running the business there. She's done a great job of helping build that community. So yeah, very, very good resources we'll add to the show notes for people to check out as well. Stefan, so what does success mean to you today? Whether that's personally, business, financially, life, no right answer. How do you define that?
Yeah, if you start a business like this, then people see only the nice things if it is a success, but the chance, if you're honest, that it will be is actually very small. People don't see that you suffer, that you have to sacrifice, that you have to give 1,000% to make a lot of extra things to be where you are right now. And I should say that at that time point, you think money is a very important thing, right? And it will make everybody's life easier. But since I was lucky to become a dad of now a 5-year-old son, he started playing football a couple of months ago. And to be with him on the pitch and see enjoying him a football match, that actually makes me much more happier. And if I just feel straight in the heart, then I should say these things, spend time together, build friends with your son or with your kids. That's what it is all about. Yeah.
Love it. That's quality time with, and joy that it brings with that. So that's awesome. I agree. Stefan, this has been a fantastic interview. Once again, I'll just mention these 2 links for people to check out giveaways Stefan has been generous to give. So we got one ebook about the top strategies to promote your next event and generating over 1,000 attendees, which we'll add to the show notes. And then the other one's an ebook around the top 10 LinkedIn outreach templates from some of the top influencers. So Stefan, where can founders get in touch with you, learn more about you, or they just want to say hi if they want to learn more?
Yeah, people can connect with me on Twitter, for example. I think my name is Smulders.Stefan. I'm very active at the moment on Twitter, so I drop in some really interesting threads where I also try to share as much value about outreach on LinkedIn, templates, sequences, IDs. learning. So I think that's the most easiest way to engage with me. And it's also fine to shoot me a message to connect with me on the Facebook, for example. I'm very active in the Facebook Messenger as well. And otherwise, just shoot me an email at stefan@expandi.io. And I will make sure that I will answer personal as soon as possible.
Thank you so much, Stefan. Really appreciate you jumping on the SaaS District show today.
It was a pleasure to be here. I really enjoyed, and I'm looking forward how this episode will come along.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for watching this episode and joining SaaS District today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for future episodes where we interview top leaders in the SaaS industry. If you're a SaaS company looking to grow and unlock the true value of your business, get in touch with us at Horizon Capital, and myself or one of our consultants will provide a free assessment to help you get there and hit your goals. If you have any feedback or suggestions for this podcast, please comment down below and help us improve our content for you all. Thanks again, and see you on the next one.